Never take advice from someone that hasn't done what you want to achieve. This one is key and it cannot be broken, right? So you need to do this first. What I call insane due diligence. And being someone who's analytical, I need to make sure that I'm understanding the numbers around it. There's no emotion to what I do when I buy and sell, right? I need to make sure I'm buying right, because if I buy right, I can sell at any time in the market and I'll make money. So if I buy right today and I buy something that's 20 or 30% under and I want to sell it in the same market, I can do that today and I can make money. So I mitigate my risk. You do not want to be overpaying for a property up front and then trying to sell out, which we see some people do, and it costs them significantly. And that's what I'm trying to avoid with you, right? And I want you to really get this right. So insane due diligence, very first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to get pre-approval. You need to understand what it is that you can borrow before you start looking, right? Because if you don't know the numbers of what you can do, then it doesn't determine where you can actually do it, right? So you've got to know your budget. You've also got to appreciate that just because you've got pre-approval
does not guarantee you the loan.
A bank can pull out at any point in time, right up until the day before you're about to settle, if they choose to. And if you've put a deposit down and you've signed a contract subject to that pre-approval and you're banking on that pre-approval getting up and the bank says no, you can lose your deposit. So you don't want to go there, right? So you want to make sure that you've got that covered. So you know your budget now, you've got that, perfect. Are you buying to invest or are you buying to occupy? Because if you're buying to invest or occupy, you're buying a totally different type of home. But if you're buying to occupy, you need to understand in that marketplace who it is that you're going to sell to eventually. Because you'll say that you probably will never sell again, but most people do. So you need to actually start with the end in mind and work back. So if this market happens to be a market that is a schools district, then you need to know that the house you're buying is going to be one that will appreciate faster by people who want to move into the area as you transition out, as your children get older and their children move in. Because schools districts stay that way, right? Particularly in consolidated areas. So you need to make sure that you're buying the right property, and it's key to do that. If you're looking to straight out invest, then again, what is it that everyone's after in that area? And I'm going to delve into more of this in a moment and some of the detail, but what is it that actually sells the most of? If you're trying to buy, and here's the perfect example of this, there's a lot of people building 4-bedroom homes out in Armstrong Creek, Warra-Lily area, and yet the houses that grew the most were 3-bedroom homes. So if the houses that grew the most in value were 3-bedroom homes, why would you be building 4-bedroom homes? Right? But if you don't understand this, you don't look into this, you don't know what to do, you could be spending more money than you need to, and you're putting a bigger house on a smaller block that you don't need to, because the person that gets a 3-bedroom home can keep it as a single-story home, arguably, on a smaller block and still have enough land for their children, or they can do a 2-story house and have even more land because they're only small blocks. And it means that that works better and it's actually achieving more in return. So you spend less to build it. You're spending the same to buy the block, but you spend less to build it, but you've got more demand for it, and so the price is greater. How interesting is that, right? Everyone thinks that 4-bedroom homes are the way to go. To know where to buy. I'm saying, and you'll get to a point where you'll have a number of suburbs, but I'm saying that you should try and work on around about 3 suburbs to 5 suburbs, no more. And the reason I say that is because what I'm talking about in what you have to do, you actually have to do religiously. And that is that you chart each of those suburbs based on what your budget is. So you're going to go to realestate.com and you're going to go to Domain. Why are you going to do both? Because some people will advertise only on Domain and not on realestate.com because of the sheer cost to advertise on realestate.com. Realestate.com will generate far more activity, so you'll see more properties, but you will always still see properties on Domain that may not show up on realestate.com. You should also then look at other private sale companies, because there's people out there that will list and sell through private sale companies that won't list on realestate.com and Domain. Some are on both, but they're not always, right? So if you're really trying to do the due diligence properly, you look in your suburbs, you search through these sites, and you make sure that you're actually getting the data from all of them. Now, in those 3 to 5 suburbs, you need to make sure that you put your budget in. Now, obviously, if you've got a budget that's between or up to $500,000, that's not a big budget these days, but if you've got that sort of budget, then the increment is $25,000 change on realestate.com, for argument's sake. If it's from $1 million to $2 million, it's $100,000 change, and if it's from $2 million to above, it's $250,000. So I'm not separating anybody here in terms of what level of property you're purchasing, but what I want you to do is to make sure that if you've got a budget of, say, let's say you've got $650,000, well, you want to make sure that you're picking up properties that are from $550,000 through to $750,000, and you'll look at them all. And then you're going to shortlist them down, and you need to then drill into those properties, and you need to search those properties and understand what they are before you go and see them. And you need to understand whether they've been underquoted or they could be being overquoted. So you could have quite a zealous vendor that's expecting a much higher price, and you don't want that, right? So if you see something that's stupidly priced, well then just don't even worry about that. But if you see something that's lower, you want to make sure you're picking that up in the search, because that allows you to see it and to analyse it. Now, when you see a property listed on realestate.com, for argument's sake, there's what's called a statement of information or agent price guide. You have to go to that. And you need to look at what the agent is projecting forward on that to say what they're comparing it to, because in most cases they're not comparing it with apples. But what I want you to do is you grab the address of those properties out of the statement of information and you put it into the search bar and you search that and you see what it is. Because if that's sold, because they're the only properties that can go in a statement of information is sold properties. So if it's sold, then you can see that it's sold for X dollars. You look at the rest, you go into the suburb and you do the same for all of the agents that have sold in those areas, and you pick up all the latest properties that have sold in the last 3 months. You then chart all of those to know where they sit. So whether they're 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1-bath, whatever that happens to be, double garage, what size land they're on, you need to chart all this out. Once you chart this out, you're shortlisting down to the ones that you're going to look at. They're all the sold properties. You're not looking at those, right? But what this is doing is showing you what you're going to look at when you see the for sale properties. So on the for sale properties now, you're going to go and visit the properties that are on the market, and you need to do that over a 3-month period. You need to know every single property, the ins and outs of each of those properties. So what does that mean? That means that you need to be looking at things like, what's the area that it's actually in? Is it a desirable area, as I said before? What you should be doing, which is a super important one, particularly if you're investing and you're investing from outside the region, and you've heard of the Geelong region and you think, well, I'm going to buy in the Geelong region, but I don't really know what's going on. Well, you need to actually visit the area for one, and then you need to be talking to people. So talk to all the agents and find out where they live, and find out where they would choose to live if they could afford to live, right? Where their desired location would be, right? And you just chart that. And you could do that also from a rentals point of view, because as an investor, you want to speak to the property managers and you want to do the same thing. Find out from them where they live and where they would like to live if they could, okay? And then what you want to look at is you want to visit the likes of police stations, and you want to find out with the police station where they have the most problems and where they don't have the most problems, because you don't want to be buying in an area that has problems. And arguably, if you've got a big police station in an area, chances are that particular area has problems. So you need to look into that and you need to get that evidence. And once you've got that evidence, it's going to set your mind at ease as to where you should be looking and where you shouldn't be looking. Then you get down to things like location of the house and orientation of the house on a block. As I say, if you're an investor and you're looking to potentially do something from a development point down the track, you're going to need to make sure that the house is situated really well on the block so that you don't lose the house when you go to develop the backyard. Yeah, and so if you've got a block that's got a house that's positioned in a diagonal direction across the property, and it actually virtually kills the block from a development point of view unless you knock it down, then that means you're paying more for the house now than what you would be if the house was positioned in a better location. When I say that is because what you're doing is you're paying for something that you can't keep. If you've got a well-positioned home on a block that's got a wide driveway down the side and gives you access to a block at the rear that you can do something with, now you've actually opened up the backyard and you've added more value straight away to that property, and you need to think this way. Whether you're an owner-occupier, that to me is like looking at a property and saying, well, I'm going to live in this house, I'm going to dress this house up, and I'm going to have this super fund down the back that I can do in a few years' time, or I can hand that to my children, or I can hand it to a partner. There's lots of ways that you can actually make great value out of that down the track. And yes, you're going to be paying taxes and all these things that go with that, but at the same time, it's the difference between having an opportunity or not having an opportunity. Buy the wrong house, you miss the opportunity. That's whether you're an investor or an owner-occupier. And as an owner-occupier, you should be thinking like an investor. It's a bank account that you want to make you money. If it's not making you money, it's costing you money, you need to get rid of it, right? If it's making you money, then you can keep the property. And if it's got future benefit to you, that's even better. Okay, so orientation of the house is super important on it. What type of house in that area commands the best prices? So in some suburbs, if you've got a white weatherboard home that's been renovated and it looks like a doll's house, I can guarantee you now that you're going to have a massive audience to that property to want to pick it up. If you've all of a sudden then given it off-street parking, or rear lane access into parking, whatever the case may be, that's going to elevate it even further. So you need to look at what actually attracts the greatest activity from buyers at any point in time and achieves the highest prices. And that's research. You're just going to have to do it. That's all there is to it. What you're also going to need to do is build relationships with agents. Now, there's agents that sell a lot of property, there's agents that don't sell a lot of property, and those agents are going to be the ones that'll turn property over quickly. So if you become friends with those guys, and I'm just saying guys here, that's ladies as well, and they need to turn a property over, then you want to be the person that they call first, right? And so you need to let them know that you are pre-approved, you're ready to go, you can make decisions in 24 hours, you know exactly what you want. You're looking to buy multiple properties and you want them to call you and you give them that story, that that's what I need you to do. You call me first if you get a property and I'll make a decision for you. I will not waste your time. And you become the squeaky wheel, right? You want to be the one that's contacting them regularly and saying, guys, have you found me anything yet? Have you found me anything yet, right? And they're going to go to work for you. So they're going to find properties and it might be a vendor that engages them, but they're still going to want to turn it over quickly because if they can turn it over off market and not put it to market, yes, the vendor might save a few dollars on marketing, but you might pick up a really good sale that they've sold under what it really could have been sold for, okay? Because off market doesn't give you the best price, but going to the market and letting everyone compete with you gets the best price. And that's a given. And so guys, if you like what you hear, all we need you to do is to like, subscribe or follow us, and we'll give you all the information you need to get it right.